right, so let's continue this quick series on working with various aspects of video clips. We saw in the prior one how we took something of a image sequence and created this nice little turbulent cloud pattern or cloud sequence just from about 15 or 20 frames, but created a nice interpolated one with perhaps a few glitches or artifacts every once in a while if it moves too fast. Ideally you have more frames available, but you can certainly produce many more on top of that. And then also we added some sort of a lightning traveling through it and add some effects like that. Now the idea is to use that as a backdrop in PuppyRay, right, in the ray tracer, where we can take an elevation map, turn it into 3D, and then use this image as the background. And I wanted to explore some of the things to be aware of, because quite often what will happen is that this is the entire image, like we have it here. There is not much room above it, and we have to remember that this upper part is going to be at the pole, at the very zenith, the highest point in the sky. So the clouds is not going to be near the horizon. It's going to be the bottom, the base here is where the horizon is going to be located, and that stretches all the way to the top. That's your 90 degrees from horizontal line going all the way up at the top above us. So that cloud is not going to be easily seen in its entirety. It's not going to be seen all together. In fact, this is what it's going to look like typically. If we do a rendering, you'll see part of the bottom of the cloud, and the top one is missing, right? It's way up there. You don't see it unless you do a very strong wide angle view. You see the lightning also. It's going from left to right here, but it's also stretched across the entire universe from left to right. This is making a full 360 degrees. So that's one thing you have to keep in mind, is if you use this as a custom brush so that it then fits into the sky dome in PuppyRay, from left to right, that's your entire 360 degree progression. Also from bottom to top, that's at the horizon going all the way to the zenith. Now if you have from 0 to the top here, that's from flat horizontal, the horizon line, to the top zenith, that's 90 degrees. From left to right, that's a full 360 degrees. So first of all, this is not the right aspect ratio for the image. You should make this much wider than it is tall, and you should have more space above it than having the clouds go all the way to the top. Right, so that's what I'm trying to explain here, and we'll explore some of the techniques so that we can get to something a bit more like this, where you actually see the whole cloud. It's still a little bit distorted sideways here, but it's certainly better if you want to actually see that entire cloud. So what I'll do is let's start with something like a plain image, and let's make that image something like 800 by 800. And then just create some sort of a pattern. Let's go render a grid or a brick texture, something like that, just so we have something we can use in PuppyRay. When we go to PuppyRay, we can render that, or rather transform it into PuppyRay with the PuppyRay GPU mode. And no surprise here, we do have the terrain. We have a sky. We do have 3 skies predefined. The 4th one is really our own to define, and that's what we want to do, is we want to get our cloud pattern go into that 4th placeholder here, making that, simply pulling that from the custom brush. All right, so shy of this, we do have some options here from predefined skies. We can change the scale of the whole thing. I'm, by the way, using something beyond version 10. You see there's also a reflection happening here. So there's some more evolution here. But the most important thing for right now is to understand that we should look at making the sky well controlled and well defined. All right, so how do we do this? If we look back at this thing here, this is too big, and it doesn't have the right aspect ratio. We need more space to the left, to the right, so that it spans the full 360 degrees, and we need some space above it so that it spans 100 or 0 to 90 degrees too. All right, so first thing I'll do is make this a little bit smaller. It will go faster for the demonstration. So I'm going to go resample that and say, let's make it half size. Let's go half this, 640 by 360. So at that point it'll be a little bit faster to work with, and we might make it even smaller than that. What I do want to do though is particularly add more space now. After it's smaller, we have more room we need to still add to it so that we get to this aspect ratio of 360 degrees horizontally, 90 degrees vertically. And that's basically a 4:1 aspect ratio. So we should have it something like 2000 pixels wide, 500 pixels high. Something like that will allow us to see it and view it without much distortion. And that's pretty much the goal here. So let's wait for this processing to be completed. And again, this might go quite a bit faster on your systems. My laptop here is about 5 years old now. So here it is. Here we have a short animation. I'm going to go and store this one. I'm going to store this one in memory so it's fast. I'm going to go delete this one. And the next thing I'm going to do, let's see, how many frames do we have here? 128. That's fine. We'll keep that. So what we have, let's see what the dimensions are. Image info will show we have 640 horizontal. Let's make it even less. Let's make it 500, exactly 500. So resample it down to 500. Make sure the constraint is still on here, and let's make it 500. Now at that point, the height is going to be an odd number, and I don't like that too much. But we can fix that later, or we can say uncheck this constraint and make it perhaps 280. Right, who's going to notice if there's a pixel missing? What matters is that if you save this as an AVI file, most likely or really any format, most of the video formats don't like it if it's an odd number. All right, so let's store this one. This is a better one to work with. Let's go store animation to memory. Let's get rid of this one. And so this is the one we want to now make it much wider and also a little bit more room above it. So how wide do we want to make this? Let's make about 2000 pixels wide. How do we do that? Well, first of all, what we need to do is not resample it, because if we resample like we just did before, it's going to make everything bigger and smaller. What we want is the canvas or the image placeholder to be bigger, but this image should stay as is. And we basically fill in the new space with the same color as this background. It might be black exactly, or it might be very dark, not exactly black. We'll have a look at that. But essentially what we need to do is not resample it, we need to resize it. Right? Excuse me, not rotate. Where is it? There. Image size. Okay, so we define the image to be bigger in some ways. Right now it's showing 500 by 280. And what we really want is the height to be 500 and the width to be 2000. Right? That would pretty much satisfy the need to have it a 4:1 ratio and make it 4 times wider than the height. So what we can do is say, okay, let's make it height 500 and the width is going to be 2000. So remember, we're not resampling this to that size. We're not distorting it by changing the aspect ratio. We're just adding space around it. And we want the height to be a total of 500. Now, one of the problems if we do it just like that is that the existing image is going to stay in the middle. And anything we add above it is going to be to the left and right or above it. And what you can do is say, no, we want it at the bottom. This existing image should stay at the bottom. And then we want to add some space around to the left and above it. Right? Any extras that we are defining by making the width bigger than the current width, or by making the height bigger than the current height, any of that extra number of pixels, that extra space, is going to be placed around it, above it, but not below it. Okay? So then that way, the bottom of the cloud is going to stay near the horizon. All right, let's do that. And now, of course, one of the problems in doing it this way is that it still kept the background color, which is white. The secondary color here is white. So all of these frames got bigger, but the space was filled with white. What we really should do, let's go do that again. Let's restore this. What we really should do is make this, switch these two so that black is the background color. But this may not be exactly black here. This probably isn't exactly black. In fact, you can probably see if you go down to see the information info here, open that on your sidebar, it shows you what the RGB values are that you see. And it looks like it's, yeah, see this value here, 86, 86, 86 right now. If you go around it, it sees 0 over there. So that's a good sign it's actually black. So we can use that. Otherwise, what we would do is we would pick it up with the color picker here, or the turkey baster. We would pick this up and then right-click to pick that color. You could also, if it's a very noisy pixel image, if there are some pixels that are not exactly black and you want sort of an average of that, do a little bit of a dithering color. right? And simply right-click this same tool, the turkey baster here, or the color picker. Right-click that, and then say you want to grab not just 1 pixel, but 3 by 3 or a 5 by 5 area. And then as you do that, you're actually getting an average of those pixels. All right, so the next thing we want to do is to erase the space around it as we create that space around it. So we want to make sure that that dark color is the secondary color, because it's going to use that secondary color to erase the new space we add by going to image menu and then select, where is it? Image size, rather than resample. Again, we're not resampling the existing image, we're changing the image size, and in this case we're making it bigger. We're going to basically add some space around it. The width should go to 2000. The height should go to 500. And the existing image will be at the bottom in the center. Just click this and you're good. So now this time you have added a lot of white space, black space around the existing image. It is still in the center. And we can expect to use this quite nicely for purposes in the background sky for the Puppy ray tracer. So first thing we'll do is we'll store this. This one you might want to store to disk. It's getting big. You don't want to waste too much RAM for that. You can always run the task manager in Windows to see how much memory it uses. But you have this now, and then you can go and click this little here, let's take a look at it. See this little caret down there, this little triangle pointing down? Click that, and then you'll see use as animated brush. And when you do that, it will give you this thing as an animated brush, right? So it's a stored copy here on disk, but it's also in memory now in the animated brush. And you can store it here as well if you want to take a look at it, store and manage a copy of it. And you can in fact look at the film strip, show film strip of that stored copy, and you'll see the progression. Now here it's a bit distorted because it's fitting that 2000 pixel wide image in a square box. It's not respecting the aspect ratio in this little preview. But it doesn't matter, we just rarely use this to look at it. What we really want to recognize is that we do have an animated sequence in this brush. We can minimize that. We don't actually really need to hold it in this stored copy if that's the only brush we work with. Anyway, that's what it's using. The current brush is going to be the background sky in Puppy Ray. So now we just need to have a terrain. Let's go create something new. Let's go, in fact, create a new image of a new dimension. Let's go create something like 720 by 576. Or maybe something a bit more the HD aspect ratio. Let's create like 1280 or 640 by 360 there. It's a little bit small, but it will render faster. It'll be good enough for what we need. And then we'll create an animation from that. And actually not quite yet. We need to give it some sort of an elevation map first. Let's go render plasma noise. Why not? Let's do something simple. Let's go make it seamless. There it is, make seamless with quite a bit of overlap, something like that. And so now we can go and store this image. This might be a good one to store, and then also go into filter. Let's see. Oh no, that's pretty much it. I mean, if we want, we can add some erosion. Let's do that actually. Let's go and create quick erosion by 3D Designer. Has a quick way to add some erosion to that. You could, for instance, go to the More button here and say Eroded, and there's the erosion. Perhaps add more erosion. Let's say 44 for the rainfall amount. Maximum run length maybe 3000. Or 3,300, maybe 15 for the flatness threshold, and then also some sediments. Basically work on this so you have a nice little setting. And you can always preview it here, but in the end we don't really use it here. Remember, we can add shadows and all sorts of stuff here, but this is not where we will do the rendering. We want to tile this and have the background sky in Puppy Ray added to it. All right, so in order to use this as an elevation map, we need to store the height map. There it is. All right, we have here the actual eroded height map with the sediments and the erosion in it. Another thing you might also want to store in case you want to add more erosion is the erosion map. So store that, And why not? You could have a couple of other things like the texture map if there was one. In fact, you know what? We can do it. We can create a texture here and add some coloration. We can add some coloration on the sediments as well. Let's see, something like this. There. So we get some nice coloration, and that would be one also to keep in the texture map. Store texture, there, this one. All right, so we have a couple of things we can store and keep. Let's go back out of that. Let's cancel it. And this is the image we had initially as the elevation map, but there is now a better one, and it's this one. Let me store the current one so we can easily compare the two and go back to it. Right, so this one here is not using the erosion. This one here has the erosion. You can tell if I click one, this one here has some extra channels. They are light gray, but if I click this one, it doesn't have it. This one here is a little bit lighter, so that's the sediments, higher elevation. So this is without erosion and sediments. This is with erosion and sediments. And again, if you want, you can add some more. You can subtract some more of this erosion map that we also stored for this particular purpose, that we can actually say, click this little caret down here and say combine by subtracting those erosion gullies. Perhaps not that much, so let's use the interactive undo up here and subtract a little bit less, but this allows you to create a well-defined erosion. And of course you could blur it and do some more crisping and some embossing, all sorts of stuff you can do to that erosion map, to the sediment maps, to everything you store and export. So at this point we have this thing. We'll want to make sure it is still seamless. Maybe we want to remake it seamless, just something like this. And then we also want to make sure that the color map underneath it, let's switch to the swap image. That's the color map. Let's make this one seamless as well. Make seamless, same parameters. Remember which ones you use. This one is 8 by 8%. Let's make them so that they fit. They correspond to each other, right? If you click on the preview here, this little big icon, this will show you the coloration on the erosion or height map as well. So you can see that they are well coordinated and to be used together. All right, so let's switch back to the height map. We have the color map. In fact, let's store this one. Actually, it's the same one. No, this is not the same one. Let me undo this. This is the one with the seamless mode. So let's go and store this one as well. So we do have a version of this that is seamless. We do have a height map with the erosion that is also seamless, and we might want to even more add some more contrast to that, perhaps to exaggerate the amount of erosion, more contrast, all sorts of different things you could do here. Perhaps even add a little bit of what's it called, the curves, to do some staircasing, right? Some plateaus. Do a little bit down and up and sideways and down and so on, and create a couple of levels of stratification that way. It's a bit like a Grand Canyon scenery here, and that's a fun one to introduce as well. So we now have a couple of layers of different layers of gray, and that should look pretty good as far as a rendering from this height map. So I'm going to go and store this image. Let's have this one as our elevation map. Let's have this one as our texture map. It's already in there in the background in the swap image, and we can then create an animation from this. So let's go to create. Let's make it the same number of frames, although we could actually be more, but let's do 128 frames, same number as we have in the brush, which holds the animation of the skies. And so now if we go into, let's go minimize those things here. We don't need those right now. If we now go to the Puppy Ray Tracer again, transform, Puppy Ray, GPU. So again, now we see that there is, first of all, there's a different sky available. That's the fourth one here at the bottom. We don't see the preview until we move it again. Also, we see a reflection here because, again, I'm using a future version. I'm back from the future here. I'm using a version of the Puppy Ray that has a couple of new features. Let's hide those. Let's set the elevation in such a way that we actually don't see that. Let's simply move it up above the water level, and so now we actually get a better idea. We can also enable that global illumination, so we actually do get this sky to shine some light, especially the bright clouds here. The rest is all black, right? The pole, no pinching visible, it's all black. The back is all black. There is a perfect seam transition, but the cloud, that storm, is nicely visible with plenty of room above it that we don't care to see, and we want. So that's exactly what I wanted to show you, is that you can prepare that animation of the cloud system in such a way that it's actually visible better and occupies a smaller part of your scenery, so you get to really see it all together. Then you can do your usual navigation in and around Puppy Ray here. Perhaps reduce the pre-filtering so it's a little bit crisper. You see that canyon stratification here, the level of different different elevations here. There's some snow coloring, there is some texturing and that sort of things. But this sky is not just a static, it's an animator brush. Remember, this is the animation that we have in the brush. And if we render this as an animation, I'm going to do that very slowly. I'm going to move just very slowly. Let's go to the first frame here and keyframe that. And then go forward a little bit, perhaps something like this. And also move the eye a little bit this way. And perhaps actually move a little bit this way. There you go. All right. A little bit lower. There you go. So if we do this, and perhaps also reduce the increase or decrease the fog level, perhaps change the intensity of the light, the direction of the light source could be different too. There's all sorts of things we could animate, but in this case we really just want to see the animation from the sky in the background here. So let's not do too many things, and make sure we go to the last frame for this, which I forgot, so let's make sure we do this correctly, something like this. And I think that'll be good enough. Perhaps a little bit of a wide angle. Let's change the angle here so we see more of the sky. All right, and move down. There you go. All right, so we keyframe that. So we now have, let's go set it in very fast preview. So we now have an animation where the sky, well, it seems to be static here because while we preview, it's not cycling through that, unless we go and let's click on the more options here. And there's an option here for animate each frame. And when you do that, it's actually going to pull every frame from the animation, whether it's the terrain that's animation, or the animated color map, or the animated sky background image. And in this case, that's the one that's moving. So as we're scrubbing through that, we will eventually see the presence of the lightning. I'm not sure exactly where that lightning is going to be seen, but we will see that happen as we do our final render. All right, I think we're pretty ready. Let's go set it to high quality, and or perhaps something a little bit faster. Medium quality is good enough. We could add a little bit of anti-aliasing here. Let's make it 5 or 6 steps. That won't slow it down too much, but it will improve the quality a tiny little bit. And let's go do that. Let's go keyframe that as well. So we have perhaps some changes on that. And let's go. Let's see, we have the first view here. Let's see what that looks like. Yep, that's that. And then we have the last view here. That's over here. And let's go and render that all across the animation. Click Animate. And on that, we will just keep the current settings. No need to animate anything else, just render that. So it's going pretty quickly now because we have a fairly quick animation here and low quality rendering. But you saw the lightning go through, and you can see the entire cloud system there as it's moving, as it's animated, right? So let's go and see what that looks like now. Yeah, you can see it's all animated. That's coming from the sky in the brush. Now, what if I made an animation that actually is longer? Our brush is only, what is it, 128 frames? It's not very long. It's 4 seconds long, and that works well for short clips, right? But what if you want to make it a little bit longer, and you have enough memory, and it's not too big an image? You don't want to be at super like quad, 4K resolution, and create an animation of more than 2-3 seconds. But if you do have something like this one, let's go and restore this dude here and create a animation This time that's, let's say, 600 frames. All right, so doing this, we have an animation that will actually last longer than the animation in the background sky. Well, the background sky, the one that's in the custom brush, will keep cycling. Right, so it should at least, and we're about to find out if it does. So what I'm going to do is simply go with the Puppy Ray tracer again, and this time we'll have, actually this time we'll keep the reflection at the bottom here. Let's start with that. Let's erase the prior keyframes, right? And we have the first keyframe. We need to have it like this. And then we'll just stay where we are about this much into the animation. Nothing is moving on the camera. It's just the sky itself that's animated. And then keyframe that. Then we'll move forward a little bit. Let's make sure we're in the move forward mode. And also move the head up a little bit until we see this. All right, something like that. And then at that point, we just keep moving forward. Let's go move the camera forward. And we start elevating the terrain. So here, right button allows us to elevate the terrain. I want to keep some of the water still there, some of the reflection. Let's keyframe that. Then we go a little bit further in and keep moving forward. Watch out, let's move the camera forward. It's not the same thing as moving the terrain across. But what we can also do is have the scale of the terrain go up a little bit more extended like this, and have this go like this. Now we do need the global illumination. That's also one. Let's not forget that. Keyframe it. And then finally, I'll just, you know what? I'll kind of take a plunge here. I'll go forward and down until I'm almost down at the water level. Let's see, something like this. Something like that. Boom. That's where we'll be through the water. Let's go something like that. And let's increase the amount of illumination. I don't think we need to increase the intensity of the light source, although that could look pretty interesting too. Or we could also move the light source just to see a different. Oh, look at that, we have the light here as well. Seems like that one is not coordinated properly yet. That's okay, we'll keep it low. We'll move it to the other side. We'll see the reflection of it right there. Maybe we'll show more and we'll actually make it bigger. The sun size could be 88. And so we have a pretty bright sun here. Hope you find this exciting, because this is really, I'm stoked to see those new features there. That's going to be in a future release. So I'm showing a little bit of a preview here. You can do most of what you're seeing here, just not quite everything yet, unless you're a beta tester. So anyway, so here we go. I have keyframed the last one here. Let's go and set it to decent quality this time, like high quality. And let's preview this. Let's make sure we animate each frame. All right, so let's go here, click that. And then perhaps we're good enough on the quality. Let's show less. Move this to the side so we get a full view of this. And actually we won't really see a whole lot as it's rendering. It's going to be up here in the preview at the top in the timeline. So let's go animate that and render. So right now the initial animation is not going to show much camera movement, but you will see the clouds gradually moving as they are being animated through the brush. And that is the reflected one. And then we start moving the camera upward. And that's happening just about now. Starting to see some movement here on the camera. And it seems like we also have some, oh, that's the lightning from the lightning in the animated sky. There is something a little bit special about that particular lighting. We might want to cover that in a different tutorial. But we certainly have a nice little animation happening here. And we are on frame number 80, 81, 82. You see this at the top. You see that up here too in the timeline. You see 90, 91, 92. So this is the rendering of the frames. It is doing this turbulent animation in the clouds that we have recorded in the animator brush. And so now I'm starting to move my camera up. We are already down about 20% of the entire animation. And we're now starting, remember, this is where we started to move the camera forward, and we just saw a jump. And so what happened is that we just went through frame number 128. We have 128 frames in the cloud, in the brush, and it's not loopable. that's something we should probably try to fix as well. But at least it is recycling, and we are soon going to see that lightning strike again. It keeps playing the animation that we have in the cloud system. So at some point, I don't remember what frame number it's at. Oh, there it is. So that's at about 171 minus 128. So it's roughly about 30 or 40 frames into the animation that we see the lightning. So we are now actually on the second pass of the cloud system in the brush, but still doing our one and only rendering. And as we're moving up further to see the entire monstrosity here, the entire cloud system, we will soon see everything of it, and it will go through another iteration. That's coming up soon. We are at frame number 208, 209, 210. It should be, let's see, it's 128 per entire cycle, so 256 roughly. At frame number 256, we should notice a jump where the cloud is going to suddenly jump back to the first. We are at 228, 229, 230, another 16 to go. Let's see, countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, no, not yet, no. Now we count down 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, there it is. Okay, frame number 256 it was indeed. So basically this cloud system is gradually evolving as it was recorded in the animated brush. And once we have reached the end of that animated brush, no problem, it just keeps cycling back to the first frame of the animation sequence. And it keeps playing this sky again and again. So if you make sure that the sky is actually loopable, and we have tools to make that happen too, if you make sure it is loopable, you can keep a short animation in the sky that looks like a continuous ongoing thing. For instance, like some storms with, here's the lightning again happening. There's a variety of things you could add, like rainfall, or you could have some snowstorm. Of course, you want to have that also nearby in the entire system here nearby, but that's a post work you can do later on. Right now, we're coming to the second half of this animation. We are at frame 320. We're going to go to 600 all the way. So at this point, we're starting to enter the scene. We're moving in, and we're moving in closer and lower to the ocean, to the water level. And I think that's basically what I wanted to show you, is that you can actually control, as I mentioned, you can make it so that the cloud system you want to see is actually going to be where you want to see it. It's just a matter of pre-packaging it, preparing it to fit in an image such as this one here that has a lot more space around it than what you want to look at. You don't want to have this brush contain just the entire cloud. You want it to also contain the rest of the sky system, and you're going to see only part of it. You're not going to see what's behind you, but it's there. It's actually wrapping it all around, because if your camera moves around, you're going to start seeing that as well. So that's the trick there. Thanks for watching. Hope this was not too long. This was kind of really focused on that particular aspect of how to work with that image sequence or that animation and make sure it fits the need of where you want to see it in PuppyRay as the background. All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.